Wichita Spirit AeroSystems secures financial support from Boeing.
Today, Spirit announcing it will receive a multi-million-dollar boost from the aviation company. 12 News reporter Rachel Hallam has more from aviation experts on what this could mean for the company moving forward.
Today, Spirit announced it will receive $350 million from Boeing. Now, local aviation experts tell us this does not come as a surprise, and it's more of a loan to the Wichita-based company than a bailout.
I wouldn't necessarily refer to it as a bailout. It's more so a cash advance to keep Spirit, give them enough liquidity to bridge them until the deal closes with Boeing.
The announcement from Spirit comes after the 7-week strike from Boeing workers in Washington ended just last week. The strike having a major ripple effect on the industry as a whole, especially right here in Wichita at Spirit. And Spirit was forced to furlough their employees just last month.
Boeing's focused on making sure the supply chain has enough capital that it needs. So when it ramps up production, now that its strike with the IAM is over, things can go hopefully more smooth than they have in the past.
Spirit reported they were uncertain about what the future of their business would look like last week and hope this loan will help in 2 ways.
So it's more about providing Spirit with enough liquidity to get through to the acquisition, while also keeping the rest of the supply chain humming along and ramping back up post-strike.
In Wichita, Rachel Hallam, 12 News.